that time, another episode. Mo Mommies Mo Problems.
Good evening and welcome back to Mo Mommies Mo Problems, your podcast destination for all things motherhood. I am Kaylia Flowers and I have something to say. I'm going to take a sip of this because my mouth is dry. I hope you guys are having a good day. It's been a long ass week for me, dude. Like, we're kind of dealing with behavior problems right now with my older son, Attias. He's having a hard time, I think, just adjusting to having his brother be around and adjusting to sharing me with two other people now. And I also think there's other things at play here, like the fact that he hasn't really seen his dad, his biological dad, in like 2 years. And when he does see him, it's always kind of about him, and he talks a lot and he doesn't really do a job listening. So that's just been like really hard because my son now he's 7, so he's totally an angel, by the way. He's like perfection, but he just lately has had these random ass moments where he's just kind of showing out and putting his foot down, and tantrums and attitudes, slamming the door now when I'll be like, go to your room. And then he, boom, slams the door. I'm like, oh, boy. And I'm having a hard time keeping my temper in like my control. Like, I'm in the driver's seat of my temper. I don't feel like I am. I feel like I am in the trunk somewhere, bitch. Like, I swear, I just don't know what to do. I'm feeling very overwhelmed by it. I almost feel like what am I trying to say? I almost feel like I'm unqualified to be where I'm at. I'm like, whoa, okay, I'm really good with babies to toddlers. That is the age range. After that, I am fucking lost. And maybe that's because that's the part I know and the part I'm redoing right now. But all of this is uncharted territory for me. Like, I've never had a 7-year-old. This is my first time, you know? And I feel like I'm failing all the time. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of usually when I tell these stories, it's like after I got over the hump and I'm like looking back at how proud I am for like handling a situation, empowering through it, and being better because of it. But right now I'm still like in it. So I'm sorry if I sound kind of dark, but I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, you guys. I feel like I'm failing. And he has now started like taking things. Like, he's not stealing like crazy things, but it's still stealing because he's taking it without asking it. It's not his. So, you know, there's markers that that Darian keeps, you know, in his little situation over here, and he went and like took them, and there were like 10 of them. And really, it's like they're all the same color. It's not like they're multiple colors, but he took like 10 pens instead of 1 pen. So I always I feel like that's signs of something different than had he just taken a pen, you know, or even like put it back. But like, he didn't even use the pens either. He just like put them in the drawer. But he also does this thing where he will be like, I didn't take anything. Like, he'll come out of his room and say that. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously you fucking took something. Like, what'd you take? Stop playing with me. So I like go look and I'm like, oh, okay, so you took these pens. But I'm like, does he want me to know that he took the pens? Is this does he just desperately want my attention? You guys, I am, so we've had plenty of talks about it, and I've read lots of articles about it and forums. I'm active on the forums. I love to write and I love to talk to other people. So, you know, Reddit, things like that. And a lot of people are saying that, you know, it could just be a sign that he wants more attention, and that it's very important how you handle the situation from here on out. And I'm like, shit, okay, what do I do? So I'm like, okay, I don't want to over discipline and over correct and then be like, okay, well, I'm taking away your tablet and you don't get TV time, and now you have to spend all the time in your room, and you don't get to hang out with us, and you don't get to do fun stuff anymore, and you're not going to the park, and you're not going to see your friends and all of that. Because I feel like if this is something deeper going on, then it's just gonna push him further away, which I don't want. I actually just recently had him on the podcast because I felt like it was really important for us to do something together and for him to feel like maybe he's a part of my life in a really cool way, because he knows that I do the podcast like every couple weeks. I have a guest over, you know, and he's always popping his head out and interrupting and trying to be funny and trying to do math and just trying to pull focus all the time, pulling focus. And I'm like, bro, just be chill. Like, why? But I get so frustrated and it hurts his feelings. And he wrote me a letter, you guys. It said, I don't want to cry right now. He wrote me a letter and it said, you make me feel like a bad kid. And I was like, I just don't know what to do, man. I always felt like I was a bad kid growing up. And I feel like when I became a parent, I was like, whoa, what the fuck am I gonna do? Because I don't know. I've always had this imposter syndrome about myself. So I feel like I'm a lot more dumb and less capable than I actually am. I surprise myself all the time. I'm like, wow, bitch, you did that. You said that. I go back and read stuff. Maybe I am actually smart. But in the moment, I never feel like I am. And so when I found out I was having kids, I was already scared because I didn't know what if I was going to be able to do it, or if I was going to be able to raise a good person. And one thing I definitely didn't want was for my son to be feeling any way that I felt growing up. And like, I feel like it doesn't matter what I do. Like, he's just going to keep, like, I don't know, like, he's just going to feel how I felt. Like, it's this generational fucking burden that I'm trying so hard to, like, fight and break through, and I just am failing all the time. And I'm having a really hard time because I'm just fucking perpetuating this generational curse again. And like, I've probably already sowed the seed. Like, that's the thing that's fucked up, is like, really, you got one shot and it's between 0 to 5, because once they're 5, that shit solidifies, and that's the storyline they have for themselves. Even if you like get it together when they're 7, 0 to 5, bitch, I'm telling you, like, that's when they form all the most important storylines about themselves. Which is why I work at a preschool, and as a preschool teacher like person, I'm a teacher's assistant. It's a lot of character building, and it's a lot of good job, and wow, that's so awesome. I bet you're proud of yourself. And it's not about praise. It's more about like making them feel self-sufficient and making them feel good about themselves and making them feel like they are good and they are okay, and, you know, stuff like that. And they are loved and valued. And oh gosh. And it's just like, if you fuck those first 5 years up, it's not like there's no hope. There's hope for anything, but it is going to be a challenging road to try to get your kids to unlearn things that you accidentally taught them from 0 to 5. And let me tell you, I had a test. I say it in every video, I feel like, but I had a test when I was 19. That means that from 0 to 5, that was literally 19 to 24. I don't care who you are an idiot when you are 19 to 24. Like, your brain's not even fully developed yet until you're like 25. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't even have your full brain. And I'm trying to parent this child in the most fundamental years of his life. Thankfully, I got him he was in childcare, you know, with really talented teachers, a lot of which I work with even now still. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I feel worried, and then I feel like he's good. He'll be okay. But I'm still just like, I don't know. I'm just worried that I'm messing him up, that I've already messed him up. And he's writing me these little notes saying that I make him feel sad. And I'm just at a loss. So I'm just trying to love on him. It's hard when he stays in trouble. Because, like, if you take something that's not yours, like, if you go in my room and take something from me, you are going to be on punishment for that, because I want you to understand that you cannot go see something that you want but know it's not yours and then take it. Bitch, no. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? And I don't know what I'm doing, you guys. I cry all the time, and I'm a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. So I cry a lot, and I'm just always worried that I'm messing my kids up. Because the way I grew up, by the time I was in 7th grade, I wanted to die, bitch. Like, for real, I could read you the most dark poems. I was writing angry, dark poems, like, all through 7th grade through most of high school, actually, until I found, like, theater and stuff, and then started channeling my rage in other ways. But before that, it was a crazy little town in my head. And I just have this fear that because my son doesn't have his, like, biological dad in his life like that, that I have already created this broken kind of environment for him where he feels like there's something wrong with him because he doesn't have that, you know, like, and it's confusing when you're that age. I remember feeling that too. And so this is what I was saying in one of the last episodes about how being a parent, like, you have to face your shit all the time. It's never, it's never not happening. Like, there's always a moment where I'm like, fuck. And I have to take a minute because I want to cry because I'm triggered all the time. And I'm trying to keep myself in check, and I'm trying to keep control. Because, like, I tell Darian all the time, we talk about it all the time, like, we are the adults, you know, so it's our job to keep our cool, even when the kid is flying off the handle, because my job is to love you and to teach you the right things so that you're not a trash bag of a human, you know? So I'm trying to give myself grace, but it's really hard. So I saw a post on Instagram the other day that said the definition of the word disciple is a follower or student of a teacher or leader. When we're talking about disciplining our kids, we're teaching them right from wrong. We're not punishing them. You know what I mean? So if his acting out makes me physically harm him, then honestly, that's just me shaming and punishing him, and it has nothing to do with me teaching him anything. Like, he's not learning anything. All he's learning is that he can't trust you, and that you lose control, and that, okay, well, that's how we handle situations, and then he's gonna go around in the world and lose control all the motherfucking time. He's just gonna be, like, losing control everywhere. And I think that, I think that that's part of the problem is we, discipline, and it's punishment. Sometimes it's cruel too. Okay, so I do want to say that sometimes when you feel like you're getting, like, this is too much, I'm losing my shit, I'm about to pop off on a small child and unleash holy hell on them, you can make a better choice. You can say, you know what? We're just going to be chill. Go to your room, bro. Right now. Goodbye. And if they're like, be like, no, goodbye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then tell your partner, whoever is in your house with you, to make sure everybody's safe and taken care of, and take your ass outside. I've gone outside right here. I swear to you, I stood out there in the middle of the day on Saturdays when I'm overwhelmed. I didn't get sleep because I stayed up the night before because I was like, it's Friday, yes. But then my son wakes me up at like 6 because he's like, hey, what are we about to do? And then he won't leave us alone, and I can't have a moment with my husband, and then the baby's crying, and then me and my husband start arguing, and everything is like, and then Matthias is acting out or taking something that he wasn't supposed to take. And then I go outside, and I sit there, and I breathe. I take some deep breaths. Some days I have a mimosa. Okay, like some wine and some orange juice. You take a step outside, and you breathe in. And honestly, dude, like, the sun on your face when you're in a bad mood is almost like an instant mood lifter. And I've done it so many times. Sometimes I go sit in my car. It's just important to just press your emergency button and go handle your shit. Because I was out there for maybe 20 minutes. I cried a little bit. And I was like, all right, bitch, we about to get back in here because we got kids to raise. And then I went back in there and I was like, let me get these dishes done that are sitting here, and let me go make sure everybody's good, you know? Sometimes also that looks like working out. Sometimes I'm like, look, Darian, you're here. You take care of these kids. I need to go to the gym. I feel like I'm not my best self right now. I can't give anything of myself that's going to help anyone right now. I'm taking from you guys. Let me go get that right. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to like go to the park or something. You know what I mean? And that's just what I'm trying to do. So sometimes I feel good. I'm like, you know what? We're good. We got it. And then everything explodes and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? And I don't know. If you feel like this, please leave a comment below. Y'all don't be leaving comments. There's like 2 people that leave comments. I really want to know if the things I'm saying you relate to. Because it lets me know kind of like the pocket of what I should be kind of talking more about. And then also I think it kind of makes me feel like I'm less alone and I'm not just talking into the void. I mean, I literally am. I'm in my apartment right now by myself. But you know what I mean? So anyway, if you're feeling yourself get overloaded with your emotions, just take a minute for yourself. Your kids will be all right in their rooms for a few minutes. Drink something delightful and take your breaths. And get your kids in therapy if they need it. Don't be proud. Mental and emotional health is really important. And that's something I'm trying to do for myself and for my son because, you know, I think that he has a road ahead of him and it might be kind of hard. Even if I do everything right, which I won't, he's still gonna have a hard time just because of the fact that, you know, he has a stepdad and his mom is remarried and, you know, his last name is different from ours. Like all that, dude, that stuff was like really hard for me, you know? So yeah, get your kids in therapy if you need it. Don't be proud. Let's move on. I stayed there for a while, but I really needed to kind of get some of that off my chest, if that makes sense. All right, let's move on with our mommy movie moment. Today, we're going to talk about Instant Family, starring Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne, directed by Sean Anders. Have you guys seen this movie? It's a really good movie. Basically, it's about a married couple that decides after years of being like just them that they want to look into adoption. And they walk us through the interview, training, and eventual adoption process, well equipped with a support group that provides much of the banter and comedic relief in the movie. So it's really cute. They like work with an adoption agency, and you know they get all this training. There's so much opportunity for comedy in it. I don't know if I'm setting the scene well for you, but it's pretty funny and it's cute and it's wholesome. It's like wholesome comedy. It's almost like they saw themselves just adopting a single child, and then they meet 15-year-old Lizzie, played by Isabella Merced. She was Dora in the live action film. And everything changes. She has 2 younger siblings, Juan and Lita, that she takes care of. But they didn't know she had siblings yet, if that makes sense. And so then they find out she has siblings, and now they go from, well, because when they meet her, she has this fiery personality. She's kind of sassy. And they had this intuitive moment where they both looked at each other and they were like, bro, she's perfect. Like, we should figure her out. Like, who is she? I want to get to know her. And then they find out she has siblings and they're like, oh, snap. And, you know, any kid that's up for adoption, most of the time has some kind of emotional baggage and trauma. And so to take that on is hard, especially when I think especially when there's a cultural difference. Let me know if you've adopted kids or if you know anybody who's adopted kids or are related to someone who's adopted kids that are a different culture, and if that played a part in like things being kind of challenging. Yeah. So I was just thinking the whole time like, oh my God, these white people, because it's like 2 white people and then there are these 3 like Latinx kids. You know? And the oldest is like this sassy girl who like wants to like make out with boys and like go hang out with her friends and be like a badass. But she's also parentified and like takes care of her siblings, and she just has this like chip on her shoulder kind of thing, and she's very defensive, but you can also tell that she really fucking needs a hug. And she's very charming and she's really cute. They don't give us an Annie, it's a hard knock life kind of experience in this movie. It's not that kind of, oh, we're gonna adopt a girl and it's gonna be super cute and now she's happy and we all live happily ever after. It's more like they show you the hard parts and like kids being like, please don't hit me, and the drama and the high chaos and the rage and all of the emotions. There's like a full spectrum of emotions that they go through, both pleasant and unpleasant. Yeah, it's real life hard. And the kids are traumatized from all kinds of things and people. Yeah, they're being hit with childhood trauma and huge emotions. And much like parenthood, they learn so much about them along the way as they grow together as a little family. And they have beautiful and special moments that sometimes immediately and without warning become challenging, chaotic, dramatic, and even heartbreaking. And it's like, oh shit. But it's real life. Like anybody who has a blended family at all or was in a blended family, grew up in one, where you have peace, you have like a family that came together but wasn't like from each, they're not all the same DNA. There's so much trauma and dysfunction in families like that, and it's hard. But I think also it's very rewarding because that's chosen family. That's a whole different ball game. And when you choose to commit to family in that way, when you don't have like a biological link to them, like that's a different special kind of love, and it's deeper than like a love you would have for a friend, because you're saying you're my family, I would die for you, and we're not related at all. It's deep. And you see them go there. It's really beautiful. I feel like there's always growing pains when you're raising kids, and to be instantly given 3 kids who can all talk and think for themselves is a lot. And it's just very beautiful storytelling, very funny. If you're anything like my husband and I, you will weep because we still cry. We watched it the other day. Sometimes we watch it when we're like sad and he'll be like, you want to watch Instant Family? And I'm like, yeah. And then we'll just kind of watch it and cry, and it feels good because you're crying because it's like joyous and it reminds you that there's still wholesome, sweet people in the world. And like the whole movie is just very wholesome and sweet. It's just so damn charming. The acting is strong. The coupling works out really well too between Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne, because I really hate when I see movie couples that are married and their marriage is total bullshit. Like they're like, I love you, honey. And it's all like, I love yous and kisses all the time. And it's like, bro, that's not true. We're more like friends. We're more like, sup, bro. Nice butt sometimes, you know? Sometimes it's like nice butt. Sometimes it's like, please don't look at me. I just want to get dressed. I don't, that's, I believed that they were friends, if that makes sense. I believed that they had been together for a while and that they knew each other very deeply and were very comfortable with each other. So very good acting. I just also want to say something about parenting. I have friends who are step parents and who have fostered their kids. There's a lot of varying opinions on it, but the way I see it is if you take care of someone, you are their parent. If you're taking to the doctor, if you're dropping them off at school, if you're like, wash your ass, if you're like the one that's making sure their ass is washed, you're a parent. And there's a lot of opinions about it, and you're a parent, dude. You're taking care of that kid. So don't feel like you're, not legitimate. You are. It doesn't mean that you're taking the place of another parent, though. It just means that you are also a parent. And that's okay. And I think that if a kid has multiple parents that love him, that's awesome. Why not? I tell Darian all the time, like, he's his dad. He's earned that. He loves him very much. But sometimes that can be, for anyone in that kind of situation, in a step-parent situation, that can be a huge insecurity. And so I'm just saying it, if you're a step-parent and you're watching this and you ever feel like, I don't really get to be in like a mom group or because I'm not a mom. It's like, yes, the fuck you are. I just want you to know. Yeah, so all my bonus parents out there, just know that you're seen and appreciated and valuable and valid. Anyway, it's a really good movie. It makes you smile and feel like you want to go adopt some kids. I'm like, can we adopt a kid? Like, can our next kid just be one that we adopt and I like don't wreck my body more than I already have? Um, I also really admire comedies that are both humorous and really saying something, because there's so many movies nowadays that are supposed to be funny but are mainly just inappropriate or raunchy or poorly executed, lazy. Like, you just threw this shit together, bro, for like to make a quick buck, and you put like Jada Pinkett Smith in it, and you were like, this is a comedy. It's like, no, it's not. Like, this is trash. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry. I have a very high bar when it comes to comedy, and I think that it's still it's an art form that I treasure, and I think that when we make a mockery of it by like putting out like garbage and calling it comedy, it kind of makes me upset. So anyway, to have a movie like this to laugh at and cry at, and then also you can watch it with your kids because there's no like titties in it, it's golden. So if you find it, go watch it. Instant Family, Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne, directed by Sean Anders. Really good movie. Okay, so moving on. This week on Mom Probs, we have a relatively lengthy email from an individual who we will leave unnamed, but I'm really excited about this. She had a lot to say. She says, quote, "My best friend from college and I have had plenty of ups and downs. Anyway, the last few years I got pregnant and now have a toddler, and during all that time, she was dealing with infertility and trying IVF. Our relationship was very strained. I feel I am not allowed to mention my child or talk about any part of my life that's associated with motherhood because we're long distance friends and mostly just text and call occasionally. It wasn't really that big of a deal. I felt sad on my end, but I knew she was going through a painful experience. Well, IVF worked and now she's finally pregnant, okay, and it is becoming insufferable. She asks me questions and then sort of critiques my answer because she's done so much research and will say, well, I don't think we're going to be doing/buying XYZ about whatever it is. Did I mention she's an incredibly competitive and arrogant person? It's also just extremely hard to relate to her because there's such an obvious class divide between us and she's so goddamn privileged. She gets to suspend her grad program for a year to be a stay-at-home mom in her $3 million house. Shit. She will no doubt have a cleaner and a nanny. She has all kinds of opinions on screen time and healthy foods, and here I am, a trashy working mom with the frozen watching, goldfish eating, trash gremlin baby with the speech delay. Bitch. We are exactly what she looks down on. She's also the kind of person who cannot be vulnerable and be humbled and ever say, wow, this is really tough. So I'm just dreading this new chapter where she just tries to rub her perfect motherhood in my poor drugstore moisturized, unbotoxed face. Bitch, I wish I could be happy for her, but I'm so triggered already. I would have parented very differently if I had her resources, but I do the best with what I have, and I already beat myself up so that it's not good enough. Oh, yeah. And I feel like her condescending BS is just going to send me over the edge and break us apart for good. It feels really, really shitty that I have to be happy and supportive of her when she couldn't even wish my baby a happy birthday, had 2 chances, or send her a gift. Remember, she's beyond wealthy, once in 2+ years. It also just feels terrible to give of yourself time, emotion to someone who has so much more than you. I'm just going through a lot right now with my own family, and I just don't have the bandwidth to support her." Oh, well, first of all, woman who shall not be named, I am so sorry that this is an experience that you're having. This is hard for anyone, but I want you to understand that I value friendship almost obsessively, and I can totally almost feel in my body how you've probably been feeling. So I'm very sorry for that. I think a few things are going on here. I think it's important to remember what constitutes a healthy friendship, and some of the things you're saying about her and just how you think that she feels about you kind of is telling me that maybe things aren't so good in your friendship, and maybe that this is something maybe deeper going on. Yeah, I think it does say a lot about the state of your friendship, and you could be someone like me where I do this thing called splitting. So it's like I either fuck with you hella heavy or like we're done. And I've kind of strayed away from that a little bit recently, but it's been really hard for me. And sometimes when people hurt my feelings or I see anything as a perceived rejection, I want to cut them off, and I just like, I can only see the negative things. So I'm not so sure if you know for a fact that your friend has viewed you in this way that you were describing. You're not going to want to hear this. But if you don't have the hard facts to support your idea about your friend and what she thinks and feels about you, then you might really want to ask yourself if she feels this way or if you do, because projection, bitch. Like, the ego is sneaky, okay? And like, projection will step in when we are most at war with ourselves or unhappy with elements of our lives. I've had to check myself hella times on so many occasions, assuming that people are jealous of me or hating on me or counting me out or wanting to see me fall, when really maybe I was just a little stinky in their direction because of feeling unsatisfied and unfulfilled in my own life. And sometimes people really are stanky, so you really gotta start figuring out the difference between intuition and like paranoia, if that makes sense. Because yeah, the ego is sneaky. So I could totally be wrong, but what if your friend struggling to get pregnant made a small subconscious part of you feel kind of good because you were finally doing something she couldn't do? So you were winning. And you're never going to say that because that's horrible and you love your friend. But maybe somewhere in there, you were actually like, well, at least now you know how that feels, bitch. You know what I mean? Because that's a very normal thing to feel. But you would have to really be willing to look at yourself, to answer these questions for yourself, because sometimes it's really hard for us to do that and to be honest with ourselves. And it's uncomfortable. But I mean, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So yeah, maybe you felt like you were winning, and maybe now that she's finally gotten pregnant, it's rubbing you the wrong way because now you once again feel like you're inadequate. And you're like, well, damn, that was the only thing I had over you. Now you're this. And then on top of that, she's being annoying about it. You know what I mean? But most women are annoying when they're about to have their first baby, especially when they work really hard to have it. And that's just, I mean, a little bit of, I call it the Cobra Kai, where you look at both sides of a situation. It's an empathy machine. Cobra Kai is just empathy all around to show us everyone's experience, and that could be her experience. It's important when dealing with friendships, especially long-term friendships, to think about empathy and to think about their experience and like the way that your behaviors or things that you've said can also affect them, and you know, consider their point of view and things. So, you know, I don't know. It's worth it to mention that she could be competitive, and you could also feed into those games with your own insecurities and reactions to her behaviors. So if she is shady, then like, you're the perfect person to be friends with because you're very bothered. Like, you're staying bothered, like you're choosing to stay bothered, you know what I mean? And I know it's hard because like, we all have things we're insecure about, and if we tell our best friend thinking they're our best friend and then they take it and like exploit it and twist it around, like that shit's shady as fuck. But you got to get to a point where you're not bothered anymore. And you know, I think that's really hard, but it's possible. It also might be worth it to give the friendship a break and go inward, because if your friend is this huge bitch who doesn't support you and makes you feel inferior all the time, if what you're saying is actually happening, and it could be, because shady frenemies are everywhere and sometimes they're sneaky as fuck for years before you catch it and then you can't unsee it. That happened to me. But even if it's all true, you can't do anything to change her behavior. All you can do is work on you. So, if you want to get to a place where you're not bothered by anything she's got, get your own shit. You know, if your friend is like skinny and you're struggling with like gaining weight right now, stop. Go work out. Go, like, it's very easy. And I know it sounds like really shitty because you're like, well, but it's hard. And it's like, well, yeah, bitch, it's hard for them too. They're just working, you know? And some people, fuck, it sucks. Some people are privileged. But, and when it comes to that, I'm just going to say what I always say, which is stop looking over there. Like, yeah, they have a totally different life than you. They have a totally different storyline than you. That's their book. That book ain't got nothing to do with you. If you don't, go back to your book. Like, look at your own book. You know what I mean? Even if they're your friend, you can support your friend and not be all up in their life wishing that you had their life, you know? So yeah, all you can do is work on you. Also, if you feel insecure about, you know, your son's speech delay you mentioned, you can talk to pediatricians about possible options to get him the care and the help that he needs There's lots of child development centers that have like speech therapists and things. So that's an option. And then also just know that babies get delayed and it's okay. Like my son's 14 months and he's not walking yet. And people are like, oh, late starter, eh? And I'm like, bitch, like, bye. I don't know. He's going to walk when he wants to. He's taking 4 steps. He just is lazy. He's lazy, man. And he's like a big boy. So, like, you know, it's probably easier to crawl to get to where he's trying to go. You know, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when our kid has a delay. We feel like we're broken or we did something wrong. And it's like, bro, kids are all on their own pace. There's no set pace. Some kids literally start walking at like 7 months and it's insane. And I'm like, your baby is crazy. It's all about like the environment they're in too. Like if they're in an environment where they're around a bunch of older kids and they don't have a crib, they're gonna start walking sooner because they need to. Now, if they're in a situation where they're in a small little apartment and they spend a lot of time in the room, like somewhere with someone in the bed or being cuddled, like they're not going to walk for a while. Same thing with the speech delay. It's about like, are they around other kids that are talking to him or them, you know? So stop, like, don't beat yourself up for stuff like that. And anyone who's looking at you and saying, her kid has a speech delay, she doesn't have Botox, like that's a horrible, like that's a shitty person. And you shouldn't want that for a friend anyway. So anyway, I just want you to know, like, it being delayed, it happens and there's nothing wrong with it. And you shouldn't feel that way. And I know it's normal to feel that way. I'm just saying, like, girl, it's going to be okay. And if you feel bad about not having money, that hella sucks. And I'm sorry. And I also relate. We're still living in an apartment, working on the house right now. And I follow plenty of people who are in these huge houses and living these extravagant lives. And some days, if my cup isn't full, I'm like, oh, I need to close this app because it's making me feel some kind of way. And then other times I'm just like, that's fine. None of that is about me. That's not my truth. It's important and healthy for me to leave that over there and focus on what I can do, which is my shit. This, blinders, you know, tunnel vision. And I'm saying it, but it's hard to actually do every day. And I definitely don't do it every day. Some days I'm on Instagram scrolling and I just feel like shit about myself. But like, I always get the fuck back up and try to keep going. So yeah, I mean, I just think that none of that's healthy. Leave that over there. Focus on what you can focus on. Comparison is going to keep you sad, girl. And we're trying to find joy. So basically, if there's things you don't like about yourself, that's fine. And you should love yourself as you are. Yes, but don't just sit there and be hella sad. Like if you don't like something about yourself and it's bringing you down, then get up and make changes that are good for you. That's evolution. That's good. It's a good thing. So yeah, know when it's time to end the friendship also. Some people aren't meant to be in our lives forever. If you're anything like me, that probably makes you feel sad and overwhelmed. Because I give friendships the same weight as romantic relationship. I swear, like, I've lost some friendships and I was out, like, I was posting weird stuff on Instagram trying to make people jealous. I was like, I'm out with new friends, new me. I'm drinking, I'm eating ice cream, you know, I'm eating my feelings, I'm crying, I'm like deleting my Instagram for a week. And it's really hard for me when I lose friends because I obsessively care about my friends and I love them. And it's really hard for me to make friends. So when I lose them, it's really hard too. But I have also had people that were like, I'm a friend. This is my disguise. This is my mustache. I'm a friend. But then they were really just like trying to get information from me. And then they would go talk shit later to other people. And that's really shady. So I don't know. I just think it's hard, but it's sometimes you need to end the friendship. And I'm getting better at it sometimes. And it doesn't even have to be dramatic. Like that's the thing is like I've always ended friendships really dramatic with like a storm off or like we block each other on social media and then find each other later and we're friends, but it's fine. And it just doesn't have to be that way. You could just like be like, hey, you don't even have to say anything. You could just let time pass. Because I bet you, like, if shit is dying off, like, the other person probably won't reach out. And if they do, then that's a great time to communicate and be like, you know what? I've been feeling like A, B, and C. You know? I don't know if we need to continue on being friends. I wish you nothing but the best and we don't have to hate each other, but like, easier said than done. But still, yeah, also making mom friends is hard when you become, it's like once you're mom, who you are as a mom is very different from who you were prior most of the time. And like maybe both of you just became different people and now you're growing apart. That's okay. But yeah, lastly, you would be surprised to find out how much communication can clear things up and maybe even rectify things. If you're feeling like all this turbulence towards someone who is a best friend, then maybe she's also feeling that kind of way too, you know? It never hurts to ask. In fact, I found that if I bring up concerns about a friend and they respond angrily or just flip a switch and forget we're friends at all, saying hurtful shit to spite me, or flip it around and now it's about you and how you've always been XYZ, that's not a friend. I'm sorry. That's probably like a manipulative person who was benefiting from your friendship in some way and doesn't actually value you. Sometimes people want us around so they can look over at us when they feel bad about themselves to make themselves feel better. And fuck that. Like if that's the case with your situation, I say cut them off, because like we're not being doormats this year, okay? You're not about to kick the dirt off of your shoes onto me and walk away while I sit there. And I hope that you have that same level of respect for yourself. So that's everything I have to say about that. I hope at least something in there helped a little bit. Above all else, you got to know that you deserve people who love you and everything you are, good and bad, because that's friendship. But also know that to make and keep friends, you got to figure out how to be one too. And that gets easier the more time we spend with ourselves and our inner worlds. You're going to figure this out, and I hope you can find some courage to sit down and have a conversation with your friend. I know it's hard, like so hard, and I'm constantly trying to avoid confrontation even now. So much so that I've even denied my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, stuffed them down, and abandoned myself altogether. But then something like breaks the camel's back and I explode, and it's like months of shit I was holding on to, and then I look unstable when really I was just, not using my words. So, even though it's uncomfortable, lean in, do it, open your mouth and say something, and then go from there. So I hope that helps. And don't forget to send in your anecdotal mommy stories or issues to MMMPpodcast@gmail.com, because we are striving for connection and community. So for today's Mommy in the Media, we're going to talk about Pink. I'm actually in love with Pink. She's a very individual person. She's a very authentic person. She goes against the grain, and she's hella hot. Born Alicia Moore, Pink grew up in Pennsylvania and was a kind of skater, trash bag tomboy kind of girl. She had edge and people didn't like her. Parents didn't want her kids to hang out with her. She was a rebel and got into shit. She was just dealing with shit at home and with her parents getting divorced. I find it interesting that the majority of the start of her career, she was constantly being asked if she was a lesbian. It's laughable because I truly don't get a lot of queer energy from her. And I think that when a female decides to wear her hair short or maybe dress in a more masculine presenting fashion, that the assumption is that she's gay. And a lot of times that is very much the case, but not always. And I think it's frustrating to be queer and to have there be all kinds of stereotypes and ideologies about the way we're supposed to be presenting ourselves to the world, dressing, acting, and carrying ourselves. Because if you do identify as someone under the queer umbrella, and you are a woman or identify as a woman and want to wear dresses and things, you may feel like you're not letting yourself be seen. Or vice versa. You may feel like, oh, well, if I'm not gay, I can't wear that short hairstyle or wear boxers with my outfits or shop in the men's section, because then I would be giving people the wrong idea. And that's like, what idea is that? Because you're wearing clothes, There's so much more wrong here than just non-conforming gender performance and people linking it to your sexual orientation. Because then we could go into the trans and non-binary communities and all of the frustrating misconceptions and assumptions that are always occurring about them. Or lawmakers trying to keep drag queens from living because queer people are taking over the world. Sorry, I just had to say it. So anyway, I love how confident she's always been just being herself. I've always been into the idea of loving yourself all the way through, so much that you can shout from the rooftops all the shit that you have wrong with you and not feel ashamed about it. I'm a crazy person. And I just feel like Pink has always been like, well, I'm a mess and we out here. Versus trying to be this like cookie cutter pop star that, there's nothing wrong with it. I think they all serve their purposes and they all like, you know, Britney Spears was of that same era, and I freaking love her. You know what I mean? It's okay. They're just different, but very authentic though. And I'm very big on authenticity. I've kind of always been, but I've struggled with it a lot. So anyway, what was I gonna say? I think Pink uses humor and genuine lyricism to convey how she's doing in her life and where she's at emotionally, and it's just an honorable trait, an admirable trait, honestly. She openly engages with the media about her husband and how their relationship was turbulent and a hot mess for a minute. And songs like "So What," "Try," and "True Love," all those bops that she writes from these deep places of pain, rage, and emotion and joy are hella relatable and catchy as hell. I never really thought about it until recently while listening to her new album, Trustfall, but Pink had a super huge influence on me growing up. Like, she was always on the radio. This bitch always had a hit. And I just remember like, right, turn out the lights. We're gonna lose our minds tonight. What's the dealio? I love when I talk too much. 5 a.m. to the radio up. Where's the rock and roll? And like, oh my God, I was like, yeah, I love when I talk too much. 5 a.m. turn the radio up. Where's the rock and roll? Like, I was feeling those lyrics so hard. And then they did a cover on Glee, bitch. And I just remember being like, so raise your glass if you are wrong in all the right ways. And whoa. Like, she was a huge part of my like growing up experience. And also I started writing music when I was 7. And I just remember all those hits coming out and belting them out and practicing my craft. And I just started really getting into writing at that time. And I'm like, wow, I never really thought about it. But Pink had a huge influence on me in the way that I was writing my music at that time. So anyway, I also remember watching her Hollywood Story on TV with my mom and learning about her rough childhood and just her being in this crazy, or her being this crazy cool badass with a soulful voice full of pain, and how she turned the whole pop genre over on its head. And they tried to make her like a Destiny's Child, like, there you go, you know, kind of artist, but she's like her own flavor of fun and talent and pizzazz, and she can't be packaged all cute and neat by anybody. And that is the fucking vibes I need in my life. I've always felt that way. I always felt like I just didn't really belong anywhere. I'm like, where do I go, bitch? Like, I'm too black for y'all, too whitewashed for y'all, too outgoing for y'all, too quiet for y'all, and somehow I'm not enough for any of you, but like way too fucking much for everybody. Make it make sense, you know? And so she has these songs that kind of encapsulate those emotions for me. Like she's saying the things I think, and I'm like, bitch, yes, you know? So yeah, hearing about her story changed me a little bit, and I've always been attracted to those kinds of artists, the ones who draw outside the lines, cringy, geeky, or original stuff that makes people scratch their heads and they just don't get it. I'm like, I get it. I love you. I'm a huge supporter of the underdog, the runner-up, the people who are themselves and make other people feel inspired to do the same. I'm very big on that energy, especially right now in my life. I was saying this earlier, but I've always struggled to locate authenticity and figure out who I truly am as a person. I've done a lot of identity shopping in my years, and it just feels good to finally be arriving at a place where I don't have everything figured out at all by far. But, you know, I'm a mess, and that's okay, because I'll never not be one, and just radically accepting that shit instead of feeling so weird about myself all the time. So Pink and her husband, Carrie Hart, have had a very tumultuous up and down sort of on again, off again thing. But once they decided to calm down and make it happen, they got married and had 2 beautiful kids, Willow and Jameson. And all I know so far, a documentary about her beautiful trauma tour and all the goings on. We get to sort of peek into her life and how she makes her tours happen with her 2 kids and her husband right there every step of the way. She takes her kids on tour. I said it in one of the last podcast episodes, but like, I used to want to be Hannah Montana. And I remember once I became a kid, I was like, well, there goes that. Like, I'm not going to be famous or be on Broadway if I have to, you know, take care of a kid. Like, kids don't belong there. But it's like, if you're a pop star and you run your own shit, You can take your kids anywhere. And that was very inspiring too. I was like, man, maybe I should still follow my dreams, in some way, some sort of fashion. Because having kids, I mean, it doesn't stop anything unless you let it. So anyway, yeah, she takes her kids on tour, and that's got to be hard. They show her being a mom 24/7. Like, literally, she gets off the stage, grabs a kid, and they go home, and she still does bath time and cuddle time. She talks about how guilty she always feels about her kids having this crazy, not normal at all life, and how she tries to do what she can to stay close and intimate with her family, but that she's always feeling guilty. And I just think that's a huge mom thing, just being guilty. Like, being a mom is just signing yourself up for the guilty party. And it's like, come over here. There's room on my table. I'm guilty and also complaining nonstop. And I think all of it is okay to admit that you do, and it's totally normal. But it's when some of us are like, I don't feel that. It's like, bitch, don't lie. Don't be lying. You know you also feel this way. So anyway, she has a song that is called Cover Me in Sunshine that she sings with her daughter Willow, who is a princessa with the voice of an actual angel. If you haven't heard her daughter sing, go see her sing. She's amazing. She's on Instagram and not Facebook, sorry. She's on Instagram and like YouTube and stuff, like, so go look her up. But she's amazing, and she's a princessa. So yeah, she's just this warm, sweet little girl, and I admire the relationship Pink has with her daughter. There's a performance she does with her mom, and they're doing an aerial routine to Cover Me in Sunshine, the song that she recorded with her mom, and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed as I watched it. You can feel how proud she is of her daughter and how close their relationship is. There's something about watching a mom be proud of her kids that always makes me want to cry, man. Her daughter Willow is now 11 or 12, I want to say, and Jameson, her son, is like 6 or 7. So I enjoy seeing Pink's Instagram because it looks much less like a famous person's Instagram and more just like a cool mom's Instagram. And she's not like having her publicist post her shit, you know what I mean? She still feels like someone who treasures individuality so deeply and says what she wants to say when she wants to say it. So anyway, I'm a huge Pink fan and just recently started coming back around to writing music hella hard in this new year. Thanks to both Pink and Lizzo and Georgia Smith and so many artists that are on this wall. So many. I'm not going to sit here and try to name them all, but it's a lot of inspiration. And so just really diving into Pink, I was like, of course I have to do Pink for my mommy in the media. Like, this just feels kismet. And she's on my vision board. So, but she's also going on tour this year, and I think I'm going to go see her. Even if I have to go by myself, maybe I'll take my friend. I don't know. I don't know if Darren would be down to go. Maybe he would be. I don't know. But I want to go, and I want to live my best life and like just go see Pink and like see her fly in the air like a bad bitch, because she's such a cool bitch. Yeah, so I've been feeling hella inspired, and there's a lot of creative things that are happening in my life right now, and it just feels like I'm on the right track and I'm doing what I was put on the planet to do, and I think Pink is doing that too. She's a bad bitch. Leave a comment if you also love Pink, and let me know of any other moms in the media that I should do for next time. Okay, so we're going to close this out with Kicking It with Kay. I guess I just kind of want to circle back around to just talking about just the thick, icky part of parenting. And I guess I said daddy issues. Growing up without a dad makes it so that every time I saw a father-daughter relationship growing up, it just looked kind of sketch to me. Yeah, I didn't have a dad. So when I would see other people with their dads, I was like, that's weird. That looks weird. He's probably weird. I don't trust him. It goes back to my not trusting people, especially men. I said it in my wedding vows at my wedding that Darian was the first good example of a good father I had ever seen. And even then, it's sometimes hard to not undermine him while he's trying to parent, because of having an overactive need to protect Atias from feeling the way that I felt about the stepdad I had. And we've had moments where I can't even think straight because he said or did something that triggered me, and then I'm like upset with him, and I'm feeling angry and confused and frustrated. And Darian is really patient, but it's also really hard. And he's also a human. So if he loses his shit and like makes Atias cry because he like raises his voice, that kind of stuff like will send me off sometimes. And I'll be like really defensive of my son. And sometimes I feel like I click over into this other place because I'm very triggered from my own childhood. And it's like, I have to remember that he's not that. He didn't hurt me. Like, he's good to me. And I genuinely feel safe when he's around me. I trust him with our kids. I trust him with myself and my heart. But then it's also hard to give him the benefit of the doubt if anything does happen. And I'm immediately ready to jump his bones, so that I can protect my kid in a way that I don't know that I felt growing up. It's like all the things that I feel, like all the trust that I have, our love and everything, it all goes out the window when I get triggered. So I guess it's just been me trying to figure out how to breathe through those moments when they happen, and trying to reduce the amount of unnecessary stress and drama when it starts to happen. Because I can pick fights when I'm feeling triggered. And that's all very hard to do, especially by myself, which is why I'm trying right now. It's hard to find the time to do it and to find, like, affordable care, but I am looking into going back into therapy because I have such a good understanding about what's going on inside of me, but there's still so much more to learn and know about myself. And there's so many healthy coping mechanisms and regulation strategies that can be so helpful if they're done with guidance from a trained professional. Just go to therapy, you guys. It seems like it's shameful, but it's not. And then, like, you get help, and then you start to know why your brain is weird. And you're like, oh, like, you're not even that weird, bitch. Your brain is just doing this right now. And then you're like, oh, I know what I need. I need to sleep, get some water, and go for a run. Like, I don't need to, like, freak out on you know what I mean? Like, I can handle this in a healthier way. But that's really hard to do on your own. And I see so many people post, like, I'm healing me. No, you're not without help. It's really hard. It's hard. A great first step towards actually trying to at least get the ball rolling with healing is going to see a therapist. I think it's really important. So yeah, I do know that it's humbling, and sometimes it can even feel shameful if you're looking at a therapy for the first time, but listen to my words, it's good for you, and you'll thank yourself later. A healthy mommy means you can show up when it counts for your babies. I found a quote on a mommy blog the other day, and it goes like this: everybody tells us that mothering is about raising our kids. Nobody tells us that mothering is also about raising ourselves. That was by Amy Taylor Kabaz. And I agree. I think it's so much more challenging to parent when you are trying to parent yourself. If you don't receive proper parenting, you're not working with the full tool set as people are. You're struggling with finding a sense of stability because you don't even know what that fucking looks like. And it makes it so hard to parent and show up the way that you need to for your kids, that I need to for my kids. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying on the solo podcast last time about not bullying your kids. And it's like, that's how we unintentionally end up passing on the trauma, because we don't go in and try to unlearn the things we were taught so that we can heal and help raise healthier generations to come. Because that's how you mend the family line. And I'm doing everything I can right now to read and learn and find things out about my kids so that I can be good and be there for them. But it's hard work. And I also want to work on healing the part of myself that's been hurt and traumatized specifically by men who are supposed to love me or support me. And that is hard to do. Anyway, it's a heavy load because it is generational. There's a general level of distrust I have with people overall, but definitely men, absolutely 100%, blah, blah, blah. I said that. It's just shitty when you have some fucked up shit in your memories that you can't depart from ever, and they're just there and healing and just trying to get the loudness of the memory to fade out a little bit, so that it doesn't take you out so hard when you're triggered. Like, that's hard to do. And I'm triggered by all kinds of things and have to be so mindful about how I'm behaving when I'm triggered, because not everyone knows that I'm being triggered right then. And so it can be profoundly harmful to my relationships. That's just been the hardest thing, even at work. Like, I get triggered because of something totally different and unrelated, and then I'm being, like, expected to operate at this level that I am not available for. Like, I'm not here anymore. Like, I have I'm somewhere else. And how do you explain that? So yeah, I'm calling this daddy issues, but what it really is just trauma issues in general, post-traumatic stress. And I'm going to say it again, it's so incredibly healthy and responsible to get yourself into therapy, and your kids too, if they need it. If you're a single parent, I also recommend therapy for yourself and your kids, because you'd be surprised how much wounding occurs from those kinds of situations. And I'm going to use the word broken, but I just really just mean like homes where the original two people that had the baby are not together, because that does a lot for a kid's brain, and it does tend to get very confusing, especially if one or both of the parents remarry or find other partners. So yeah, Leave a comment below if you relate to any of that. And if you want to talk more, shoot me an email and we can really get into it. I'm going to leave you with a quote by Washington Irving that goes like this. A mother is the truest friend we have. When trials heavy and sudden fall upon us, when adversity takes the place of prosperity, when friends desert us, when trouble thickens around us, still will she cling to us and endeavor by her kind precepts and counsels to dissipate the clouds of darkness and cause peace to return to our hearts. Not everyone gets healthy relationships with their parents, and that makes it challenging to find the skills and tools you need to help your own kids succeed and feel loved and supported. But I hope if this is you that you try, that you really hold tight to your kids and hold their hands along the way as they stumble, trip, make mistakes, scream at you, push you away, and drive you crazy, because our kids need us. And as always, if nowhere else, you got to know you belong here in this shameless bubble of truth-telling and unburdening vulnerability. I think community and connection is fundamental for a healthy life, especially as moms. That's why they say it takes a village, because when we face it all together, we make it through our week and can gather our strength to do it all over again, hand in hand. And I hope this podcast starts to feel like a village for you. Please don't be afraid to engage in the comments and speak your truth. This is how we grow together. Thank you for listening. This has been Mo Mommies Mo Problems, your podcast destination for all things mommy. Have a good night, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to our podcast, Mo Mommies Mo Problems. See you later. Bye.